It's the most terrifying what-if in British criminal history. Before the Soham murders, Ian Huntley didn't just slip through the net, he actually convinced police that he belonged on the force, and they said yes. But to understand how a future predator managed to infiltrate the police, we first need to go back to the beginning, to the time when Ian Huntley was just a child. Long before the headlines, Kevin Huntley was a young lad working as an apprentice gas fitter for British Gas. He enjoyed his learning on the job and the duties within the role, and all in all he was just a young chap making his way in the world. And it was around the same time a young Kevin met a young woman named Linda Nixon, who worked for a local painting company. They were only 18 years old, but their connection was intense, strong, full of passion and fast moving. So much so, in fact, just months later in the early 1970s, Linda fell pregnant, and so the pair moved to Immingham and married shortly after, in the June of 1973. And just 7 months later after the wedding, Linda fell pregnant for the second time, who had by now given birth to 2 baby boys at the Grimsby Maternity Hospital in Lincolnshire, that being Ian and his younger brother Wayne Huntley. The family lived under the same roof in a small town in Immingham, at number 17 Saxby Close, under a DM40 postcode. Immingham town was approximately 8 miles away from the coastal marketing town of Grimsby, a place both boys enjoyed whilst growing up. As young children, both Ian and Wayne were very close and formed a strong bond, and they enjoyed the same activities together. They both enjoyed being outdoors, playing football, and they both especially enjoyed fishing. Also, both of the boys looked forward to going to the Binbrook RAF Air Force Base in Lincolnshire with their father Kevin, who would often take them both to watch the planes taking off. Now on the surface it sounded like everything was going pretty well for Ian, and I suppose given the certain situations compared to others, I guess it was, but unlike other young children, there would soon be a darkness installed within Ian's personality that would soon start to raise its ugly head and change his perception forever. Ian attended the Eastfield Primary School located on Margaret Street in Immingham, and from 1985 to 1990 he attended the High School Comprehensive on Pelham Road, now known as the Oasis Academy. However, from his primary school days to the end of his high school years, his private life was slowly creeping into crisis. In 1978, Ian Huntley was well into his second year at school, just aged 13 years old, and on some random day during the midsummer holidays he came home early, only to find his 35-year-old father in bed with the family babysitter who was barely 16 years old. And it was literally from around this same time the family unit started to fall apart. Ian's father Kevin was drinking heavily on a regular occasion, and by now the vibe under the family roof was turbulent. So much so, Ian's mother Linda would leave the family home, only to return home weeks later, then make amends, fight and argue over something completely different, continuously repeating the cycle. Also, Kevin's problem with drinking didn't help matters. He would become violent and aggressive towards Linda and the boys, especially if his demands were not met or if behaviours were deemed as incorrect, all the while forgetting about his own behaviours and neglecting his responsibility as a husband and a father. And by now the family dynamics had shifted. What was once a stable home environment for both boys was no more. Can you even imagine coming home from school one day and finding your father, your loyal, loved father, in bed with a child who's barely 16 years old? Like, guys, she was literally a tad older than what Ian was himself at that time. I mean, the way he saw his father from this point onwards, it must have shattered. It must have. Or even worse still, set a young and already vulnerable Ian Huntley on the path of abusive and predatory behaviour, subconsciously reinforced by his own father's actions and behaviour. And guys, I believe this was the end, the turning point of Ian Huntley's normality and innocence. Ian and Wayne's relationship was also falling apart. And even though they were brothers, it didn't stop Ian from becoming extremely violent. During this one heated argument, Ian decided to throw a brick at Wayne's head, causing a rift between both brothers that would never close. So yeah, by the time Ian Huntley turned 13, his whole family life was pretty messed up. And during his high school years, he certainly wasn't no Mr. Popular. That's for sure. In fact, at school he was described as a skinny, pale, sickly looking child, and by all accounts the description of him was spot on, because he suffered with asthma, of which only hindered his attendance at school. And when he was at school he was bullied quite a lot, because of his low confidence, feeble appearance and funny-shaped head. It was more than enough negative attention for him to deal with. And he wasn't no top of the class in any of the subjects taken in school, but he did leave school in 1990, age 16, with a handful of GCSEs. 5 in total. Oh, and something else that might be worth mentioning here. During Huntley's last couple of years at high school in 1989, his father Kevin transitioned from a British gas engineer to becoming a school caretaker at the Littleport Community Primary School, which is located just 40 miles away from Soham. After leaving school in 1990, Ian's so-called family unit was completely broken, and by now Linda had left the marriage. Wayne stayed with his father, and Ian moved into a small house with his mother Linda. And speaking about Linda, she soon found love again, but this time it was with a younger woman. They hit it off, and Linda asked her to move in with her and Ian. During the next 5 years after leaving school, Huntley had many different low-roll jobs, but none of them he kept for long. And that's probably because he was too busy committing serious crimes. And these are the crimes and serious allegations made against Ian Huntley. They are the central part of how the Soham murder case led to a massive inquiry, secretively known as the Bishop investigation. And so with all that being said, here are the non-public official details from that report. Between August 1995 and July 1990, Ian Huntley was the subject of at least 9 separate sexual allegations involving young women and children in the Humberside area. Ian Huntley was arrested and charged by police for luring an 11-year-old girl named Hayley Giblin into an overgrown grassy area in Cleethorpes, and it was there he repeatedly essayed her and then threatened to kill her if she told anybody. She eventually told her mother years later, who reported the crime to Humberside police in 1998. The case went to court and Huntley was questioned by the police, but unbelievably the Crown Prosecution Services decided there was insufficient evidence to prosecute him at the trial, effectively closing the case. However, the police did leave an intelligence report on Huntley, but it was never recorded or officially documented as a crime on his record. Then just 1 year later in 1997, Ian Huntley was at the centre of another major landslide of allegations, all linked to at least 4 underage girls. 3 of the girls were 15 years old and the other girl was just 13 years of age. Parents and social services raised their concerns, but the girls often viewed Huntley as their boyfriend and so no charges were successfully pursued. And that is just absolutely off the chain. He's still dating underage girls, and because they're saying, yeah, but he's our boyfriend, he gets away with it? Like, how does that even make sense? How... logically, how does that make sense? Because to me it doesn't, but there you go. There you have it. This is the truth. Then in July of 1998, Huntley was arrested and appeared in court for burglary. He robbed his next door neighbour's house, stealing well over £3,000 worth of jewellery. And then just 4 months later that same year, in the May of 1998, he was arrested and charged for the rape of an 18-year-old girl in Grimsby. However, this case was eventually dropped due to a perceived lack of evidence, despite the victim's claims, pleads and persistence. And it gets worse if that's even possible, because just 1 year later, in the February of 1999, another rape allegation was made by a 17-year-old girl. He was arrested but wasn't charged. However, the police officer PC Harding, who was dealing with the case, made an intelligence report warning the Humberside police that Ian Huntley was a serial sex offender. Also during that 5-year period, he was arrested twice for violent behaviour towards different partners. He was charged with assault and the other one was dropped either through fear or intimidation. And so after hearing all the factual information, now you know exactly what is and what isn't on Ian Huntley's criminal record. But this next avalanche of information you won't even know about, and I can guarantee you it's unbelievable. And I'm not even talking about the Soham murders. I'm quite literally talking about the different techniques and the ways Huntley managed to manipulate his way from one opportunity to the next. And I promise you what I'm about to tell you, you won't even believe it. It's shocking. And guys, if you find this content educational and informative, then please hit the like button and subscribe to the channel, ring the bell and select option all. It takes seconds to do this, and in return you'll get true crime quality documentaries with no biased information, no censorship like mainstream media, just the uncensored uncommon facts all told in a creative articulate story format. So subscribe to the channel and allow me to entertain you each and every weekend. Ian Huntley's work life was characterised by a series of short-term, low-skilled jobs, and he rarely stayed in one place for long, always moving frequently between different roles within the Grimsby and Immingham area. So this is from 1990 to 1995. His first attempt in a steady trade was working as a trainee painter and decorator, though he didn't stick at it for long and he didn't finish his training. And then he worked as a supermarket assistant. He was then a warehouse worker in Scunthorpe for a period of 6 months. He then decided to become a butcher, a decent trade of which he butchered. He then became a machine operator in a food factory, but he quit after just 2 months. Up next was a job at Heinz factory in Grimsby. And after that little adventure, he then went to work at the Kimberley-Clark warehouse packing nappies on the main production line. He then worked in the Immingham market selling fruit. Just 2 weeks later, he found work as a product worker at the food farm factory. And from there he went on to selling lottery tickets at another supermarket. Now here comes the shocker, so brace yourself because oh my god, I can't even believe what I'm about to tell you now. It's true, but what I'm about to tell you, it's going to officially blow your mind. He applied to become a special police officer within the Humberside Police Force in 1999, and he was successful with his application. Like, can you even believe it? How could that actually happen? Can you get your head around that? Because I'm telling you now, I can't. I sure as hell can't. Here you've got this guy, this drifter, this bum, this scumbag that's going out, not holding any decent job down, keeping it for periods of weeks or so, and whilst at the same time he's going out committing serious sexual crimes against children, young women, he's robbing people, he's doing burglaries. Like, the guy's clearly a drifter and has no potential skills, no professional craft. And yet somehow he's successful in his application in becoming a special police officer. I can't believe it. It's unbelievable. It's crazy. But here's the question I put to you, the viewers. Can you guess how he managed to become successful in his application in joining the police? Tell me in the comments. Tell me. Go on. I'll wait. Still waiting. Look, while I'm waiting for your guess, let me explain something to you. Because Ian Huntley was the type of creepo who never knew what respect was, and bear in mind he had never experienced or felt what it's like to be successful in life. Deep down he was ashamed of the standards he had set for himself in life. And this is fact, because he wouldn't have gone around telling women and children, including his victims, that he was an air flight pilot, that he was a police officer. And guys, that's what he used to do. He would go around and tell people he was a police officer or a flight pilot. Like, the guy was delusional, but there was a mitigating factor to his delusionalness, if that makes sense. Purely because he was a man who was completely driven by a deep-seated need for power. Yeah, it's true, he would tell women and children and his victims all the time that he was very much a man of stature, a man of power. And that's why many of his young victims were very fearful when coming forward and reporting his ass. But in general, overall, he was a man who definitely needed to seek out power over other people. And I suppose in Ian Huntley's little pea-green brain, getting into the police force would have been the perfect way to demonstrate his authority over others. But how did Huntley do it? How did Huntley become successful in his policing application? Okay, you've had more than enough time to leave your comments, so I guess I'll tell you. After his mum and dad split, Linda Huntley changed her name back to Nixon. And Ian Huntley knew with all his sexual criminal charges on his police record, the chances of him becoming successful in any kind of decent upstanding career was slim to none. And so before applying for the police force, he changed his name from Huntley to Nixon. And it worked. Unbelievable. How do I join the local police force? I know I'm a complete and utter scumbag, and with my criminal record, I don't really have a chance of becoming a police officer, so what can I do about it? I know what I'll do. I'll change my name and I'll join the police force. And that is exactly what he did. And it worked. My God, it... Just see ya. Like, what a complete and utter waste of time this guy is. PC Ian Nixon. Nah. The good news is, once he started training at the academy, they quickly discovered that Ian's mentality, his personality wasn't quite right for the job. And so after just a short while, they asked him to leave because, they said he kept making inappropriate remarks and jokes through training, which didn't sit right with a lot of the people there. So yeah, they kicked his ass off. But here's the serious gravity of the situation here. He had now learned that using the name Ian Nixon not only gave him a second chance to gain power, but it gave him a complete second chance to clear his criminal record. The policing system back then had huge systemic flaws, otherwise known as data weeding, meaning if you was arrested but not convicted of the crime, under the Data Act the criminal information would be deleted, known as weeding data. Also, the ID name checker that the police used back then, the PNC, the Policing National Computer, only used a single core search specifically aimed at finding convictions and not the person. And because of this systemic flaw in the PNC, that's exactly how Ian Huntley managed to get his job at the Soham Village School as a senior caretaker in the November of 2021, when Ian Nixon was applying for his caretaker job role at Soham Village. He mentioned in his interview that he actually worked alongside his father, who was an established and well-trusted caretaker, who worked at the Little Port Community Primary School in Cambridgeshire. And because Little Port Community Primary School was only 7 miles away and were professional roles and closely linked, Ian Huntley had lied his way into a position of power behind the school gates. And as we all know, just 1 year later in 2002, the monster went on to murder Jessica Chapman and Holly Wells, 2 innocent 10-year-old children from the same school who were out walking to the shop to buy some sweets. Ian Huntley's partner at the time, Maxine Carr, had also lied during her interview for the position of teaching assistant within the same school. She claimed to have extensive qualifications for the supporting role, when in reality she was completely unqualified for the position. Ian Huntley was eventually arrested and given 40 years behind bars for the cruel and callous murder of 2 young girls. However, 22 years into his sentencing on the 26th of February in the year of 2026 at the HMP Frankland County Durham Prison, otherwise known as Monster Mansion, Ian Huntley got smashed up behind bars by a man named Anthony Russell, a 43-year-old triple murderer who doesn't like child killers. The attack on Huntley was described as one of the most brutal and violent in the prison's history. Ian Huntley was pronounced dead just a couple of weeks later. His mum went to see him at the hospital and sit by his side while they turned off the machine. He died from severe head injuries on the 7th of March in 2026. His younger brother Wayne publicly stated that Ian was a rubbish brother who caused much pain and suffering during his younger teen years. So there you have it, all the lies, the deception, the criminal behaviour, the violence and the policing failures. There were some other little things I could have added into this documentary involving Wayne, but I felt they were irrelevant to this episode, as I purely wanted to focus on scumbag Huntley and the timeline of his criminal activities, and uncover the hidden information that most of you guys wouldn't have known about. And should you find yourself hungry for more true crimes, then definitely check out these 2 videos right here. And remember guys, I love you very much, stay safe, and I'll see you next time when evil follows. Bye.